Here's a brief overview of what we will cover today. We will have our welcome and agenda. Please have a pen and a notebook ready for note taking. We will talk about our objectives. We will outline our goals for this webinar. We will have introductions. We want to get to know each other and foster a sense of community. Please introduce yourself into the chat. Put your name, your years of service, and where you are from. We will talk about contracts. We will explore the ins and outs of a contract, ensuring clarity and understanding. We will talk about the key terms of a contract. We will highlight essential terminology to navigate contracts effectively. We will talk about our policy handbook. We will delve into the handbook and understanding the significance and its contents. We will talk about key terms in the policy handbook. We will identify those key terms for better comprehension. We will have a question and answer period where you will have an opportunity at the end of the presentation to have your questions answered. Please write your questions in the chat and we will address them at the end. We will have a Know Your Rights presentation at the conclusion and some housekeeping details. We want to let you know that you will get a copy of this presentation within the next week from the training fund. You do not need to put your workforce registry number in the chat. You will receive a certificate for your hours from the training fund within the next week. Next slide, please. Objectives. By the end of this session, you will be able to articulate what the difference is between a contract and a policy handbook. You will be able to understand how a contract protects you and your business. You will be able to identify several key policies for your handbook and your contract. Let's make the most of our time together and get started. Next slide, please. My name is Rachel Byman, and I own and operate Love Muffins Preschool and Childcare. I have been a family childcare provider for the last 15 years. My program is a nature-based outdoor program in Contra Costa County. In my educational background, I have a degree in early childhood education with my site supervisor permit. I am currently a CCPU training fund facilitator, a benefits orientation facilitator. I have also been a peer facilitator for CCPU. I also do trainings with the Department of Social Services for their Farm to ECE program. In my professional experience, I'm a provider partner for First Five in Contra Costa County. I am on the board of the local planning council in my county, and I am currently a panelist for the Early Child Care QRIS Advisory Board. I also serve on the Mixed Delivery Advisory Board for Contra Costa County. Next, I will pass it to Sierra.
大家早上好，我叫
Good
谭
morning,
春辉，
everyone. My name is Sierra Tan.
大家都叫我 Sierra Tan。
In America,
我
everybody
是在
calls me Sierra
2019
Tan.
年11月开始创办自己的家庭式幼儿园，
I have been
幼
a
儿园里
family
创
childcare
办了
provider
叫
since
做
November
欢乐园
2019.
蒙特索利国际幼儿园。
My
那
business
我
is
是这个园
called
的创
the
办者，
Teacher of
10
Garden
年，
of Joy
是
Montessori
老师。
International School.
我
I
也
am
是
both
CCPU
the
学
founder
生基金
and
的
the
一名
trainer.
讲师。
I am also a training
我
fund
是
peer
在美国
facilitator at
兰德大
CCPU.
学蒙特雷国际研究学院上的研究生。
I have a
我
master's
的
degree
专
in
业是
international
教
education
育管理。
in management at
我
Middlebury
也是
Institute
蒙
of
特索利
International
早
Studies
期
at
儿童教育
Monterey.
的认证教师。
I am
之
also a
前呢，我
certified
是
early
美国
childhood
蒙
Montessori
特索
teacher.
利学会 American Montessori Society，简称 AMS 的一名会员。
I am now also a member of the American Montessori Society. Since last year, I have been receiving ongoing training at the Instructors Academy of AMS. Prior to coming to America, I was a funding member of the British School of Beijing, an international school for expatriates in Beijing, China. I am one of the founders for this school. Another identity of mine is that I am a proud and happy mother of a 10-year-old son. Actually, to be precise, 10 and a half years old. Now let's move into contract. Next slide, please. Now let's begin our trainings on contracts. Next slide, please. So what is a contract? A contract is an agreement that specifies a certain legal enforceable rights and obligations pertaining to two or more mutually agreeing parties. A contract typically involves the transfer of goods, services, money, or a promise to transfer any of those at a future date. All contracts are legally binding. Therefore, it involves transfer of goods, services, and money. Next slide, please. Then why you might ask, why do we need a contract? First of all, like we said before, contracts are legally binding and hence it protects your rights. Secondly, contracts can protect your legal earnings and prevent you from financial losses. And a contract will have give a professional presentation for your child care provider business. A contract might also help you end a professional relationship without unnecessary legal ramifications. Next slide, please. Now, let's examine the 5 musts of a contract. First, a contract needs to have the names and signatures of all participating parties. It also needs to have the name and date of birth of the child. Thirdly, you need to have an agreed upon attendance schedule. Fourth, you need to have terms of payment. And lastly, you need to have a termination procedure. Of course, your contracts might entail other information. However, these 5 are the most core. First of all, we need to establish our intentions for going into a contractual relationship. For childcare providers, we're focused on the early education of children, which is the reason why we need to specify the name and date of birth of a child, because they're the people who we are serving. A contract needs to include all of the identifying qualifications. So we need to specify the signing parties. Once we sign the contract, that means we are willing to abide by and comply with all the specified terms of a contract, no matter how is the state of marriage and the guardianship of the parents. We strongly advise that all guardians and all parents sign a contract, especially in case of divorce. It's especially important for both guardians and parents sign the contract. This is to ensure that both parents are financially sharing the financial burdens of providing child care support. And this will also prevent us from getting into unnecessary conflicts. For example, in one case, a child's parents divorce after several years because the mother is out of work and could not pay for childcare. And the dad might refuse payment because he might say, I did not sign a contract. This is the case to illustrate the necessity of both parents and guardians signing the contract. Next slide, please. Now, let's talk about the key contract terms. Next slide, please. So what should a contract include? These following items are the key items you should have in a contract. First, terms of payment. Second, co-payment or family fees. Third, overtime fee. Fourth, change in fees. Fifth, deposit policy. Six, non-sufficient funds or voided checks. Seventh, late payment fee. Eighth, child care closure, which means provider vacation holidays. Eighth, the right to waive. And lastly, absences. Now we will dive into each term in more details. Next slide, please.
Before we jump in, I just want to make a quick announcement. If you need to change the language on your channel to hear English, Spanish, or Mandarin, please select on the globe icon at the bottom if you're using a computer. If you are using a mobile device,
next slide, please.
Select on the 3 dots more to select your language.
Next slide, please.
Questions, please write it in the chat.
Next slide, please. All right. Now, we will dive into terms of payment. We need to have specified payment. This will help us plan our weekly, hourly, monthly payment schedules. Our payment schedules could be any of these intervals. We suggest that you ask parents to pay in advance. Our rent, our membership fees are all require advance payment. The fees that we charge for childcare should also be one of those. For example, after this, at my childcare provider service, I require all payments be made before the 5th of every month. And we also should specify that parents are paying not according to absences or presence, but for position. This will prevent us from refusal of payment in cases of absences. Next slide, please.
现在我们探讨一下自付额或者是家庭负担费用。
Now we're going to talk about co-payment and family fees.
有好几个机构为
Right now,
低收入家庭
California has a few organizations that provide for low-income families. For example,
等等。这些机构呢提供的补
these
贴
these organizations,
达不到您幼儿园的收费标准。
the subsidy may not reach the level of your daycare center.
提供托育服务之前，应当确认补贴额度和您的
So you need to make sure.
是否有差距。
Wait,
如果有，那么享
if
受
so,
补贴的家庭就需
the
要
subsidy, the families that enjoy subsidy need to take care of the discrepancy
当中
yourself.
应该注明，享
The
受
contract
补贴
should
的家庭
specify
有责任补足
the subsidy
与您的幼
number.
儿园收费标准之间的差额。
So you need to take care of the
比方说，
discrepancy
我的
between
幼儿园目前
what is the
与
subsidy and what you're able
亲
to
子
afford.
children 合作。那么对他们提供资助的家庭呢，每个月的补贴金额呢是不足以支付你
So
们幼儿园的学费的。
it's not
因
enough
此呢，我
to,
们就要求享受补贴的这些家庭
we're
自
asking
己
the
承担
family
这部分的差额。
to take care of the
我
tuition
们
themselves.
还应该在合同中注明，
We should also
如
specify in the
果补贴
contract
机构因为任何原因
if the subsidy
不能支付
organization
全部的托育费，
cannot take
那
care
么享
of
受
all
补贴的家
the
庭啊，应当
fees,
承担这个责任
families
全额。
need to take care, take responsibility for all the payment.
在这里呢，你们需要知道，目前呢，这个补贴额度啊，还是基于
Right now, the subsidy fee is based on a fee in the 2018
RMR
original market rate is called.
聊天室里会提供一个链接，
We will
通过
provide
这
a
个链
link
接
in the
呢，
chat
您可以查看
later
您所
for
在
you
地区
to
的市
research
场参考率。
the market
Rachel,
rate
请你将
for
这个链
the
接哈
place that you are located in. Yeah, Rachel, can you
下一
please
个
send this link to the chat? Next slide, please.
超时费。
Now we're going to talk about overtime hours.
比方说，
How do we
您的
understand
幼儿园
this?
的托管时间是从早上
For
8点
example,
到晚上6点。
so
那
if
您
the
是
hour
家
of
长
operation
6点
is from 8
接
a.m.
他
to
的
6
孩子，
p.m.,
那
if
么
the
从
parents
6点
arrive
到
at
6点半
6:30,
就属于超时。
then
您
the
就可
time
以
from 6 to
支付
6:30
超时
is
费。
considered overtime, then you
设置
can
超时
charge
费呢，
overtime
能够有
fees.
效的促使家长
Doing
遵守
this
您约定的托育时间。
will make sure that
此外
parents
啊，
pick up their
对于
kids
某
at
些幼儿
the
园来
agreed
说，
on time.
超时还有可能
For
是
some
您
daycare
违反
centers,
只照办关于人
uh,
数的规定。
so this
比方
can
说，超时儿童可能会造
be
成您
bad.
幼儿园学生人数超
So
过法定的额度。
So this
那
can
这样
sometimes
会
result
很
in your daycare center having
那
more
么我们应
kids
该
than is
如何
legally
来
allowed.
收取超时费呢？
So how do
以
we
下
charge
提供一些
overtime
信息
overtime
供您参
hours?
考。
So we're going to
具体
provide
怎么
the
收
more
费，
information
考
on
虑
how
具
to
体规
charge.
则。
You will have to
有些
decide
幼儿
on the
园
specific
按照
number.
每超时1分钟
Some
支
daycare
付3
centers
到5美元。
charge $1 to
您也可以按
$5
照
for
15 分
extra
钟、15
1
分
minute.
钟或者半个小时
Or
来
you
收
can
费。
do it according to 5
比方
minutes,
说呢，
15
我
minutes,
的
or
幼儿
30
园是
minutes.
从早上8
For
点半
example,
开
my
到
daycare
下午5点
center,
半。
my daycare center
如果
is from
家长
8:30
追
to
赶迟到，
5:30.
最初的5
So
分
if the
钟，
parents are
最初的
late,
5分钟，我们收取15美元。以后
so the
每1
first
分
5
钟
minutes
按照
we
5
charge
美元
15.
计费，就
Then,
超过这个
extra
5
late,
分钟以后，
after the initial 5 minutes being late, we charge
这样的收费是比较高的。
we charge an extra 10 for the additional 1 minute. This may seem high, but we don't want the parents to be late. This is our time and it's
当然
precious.
了，有些时候我
Of
们也要
course,
灵活对待。
sometimes we should be flexible. So if a parent notifies you in advance that for any special reason that they are going to be late, or if it's a significant street accident or car traffic, then you can be flexible or decide to not charge or charge less. You are the business owner. You have the initiative to charge your own rate. Next slide, please.
费用的变动。
So this is, we're going to talk about change in fees.
家长就原费增长一事进行沟通，
So the negotiation between parents and the childcare provider will have difficulties negotiating.
定期调价的时间安排。
But if you in advance put in notifications for negotiating in the contract. For example, every year, if 3 to 5% of the tuition, specifying that in the contract, or every month, if the weekly fee will go up by $15, as specified earlier, the subsidy rate was based on the 2018 market subsidy rate. So their rate and what we charge is going to be different. Everything is the rising cost. Our living cost is increasing, food, rent, salary, self-education, professional development. So it is very normal for us to increase what we charge. At my daycare center, the increase in fee is based on an annual rate. So in August every year, our tuition would increase by $20. So how much you need to increase your tuition is up to your own discretion. Next slide, please.
I want to make a quick announcement again. If you need to change the language, please select a language channel by clicking on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen. If you're using a phone, click on the dots where it says More, select Language Interpretation, select your language, and make sure you click on Done to set it up correctly. Thank you.
下一个幻灯片。
Next slide, please.
好，接下来我们谈一下空头支票。
Now we're going to talk about a blank check or insufficient funds policy. If parents, when paying, give you a check, but if they don't have sufficient funds in the bank to cover the check and the check gets returned, so the bank would charge you $35 for returning the check, but of course it's different based on every bank. This fee should be responsible by the parents. I suggest you charge an additional $5 to $20 for this. Why is that? It's because you need to take extra time to take care of this. So there are a few things.
将退票产生的任何费用转由家长们来承担呢，是完全合理的做法。
So it is perfectly reasonable to ask the parents to cover the cost of the what is in the check.
查询一下这个退票的一个手续费的标准。
You need to check with your bank to see what the bank charges for returning a check. It really depends on the specific bank that you're working with. So you need to make sure you know this. So on top of this, charging an additional amount on top of that. So we suggest that you go through Zelle, Venmo, or cash apps to accept payment. At my daycare center, parents typically use Zelle, while others use an app, another app to do automatic payments. Or if a family has multiple instances of insufficient funds and returning checks, then you have the right to ask the parent to use cash to pay you. Next slide, please. Now we're going to talk about deposit or other registration policies. So this payment includes the deposit and also registration fee. Some other fees include yearly material fees. At my center, when a parent decides to have their child go there, they need to pay $400 in deposit, 950 in deposit, so that is equated to 2 weeks of tuition. I use registration fee because the process of taking in a child, I need to spend a lot of time. So for the deposit prevents us from financial loss. So for example, if a kid will not come and the parent does not inform you, so if you have the deposit, then you don't and you have that ground covered. The registration fee is also the parents agreeing to send their child there. It's a guarantee. So you should have this promise. Next slide, please. Now we're going to talk about late payment policy. So this incentivizes parents to pay on time. So if they're late, then you can't cover the cost of running your daycare center. So if late, you can charge of $5 to $10 a day. This includes weekends as well. So we ask parents to pay the tuition by the 5th of each month. So let's say the 5th is a Friday. The parent doesn't pay. So the parent doesn't pay until the Tuesday of the following week, which is the 9th of the month. So this includes Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So 4 days in total. So I would be charging $80 in late payment. So this is based on a $20 per day penalty, late penalty. So this helps you make sure the professional operation of the childcare center So if you strictly enforce this, this prevents the parent from other late payments. Thirdly, if for some reason the parent always is late, you can also consider pausing the child care service until the parent pays the late payment in full. You also have the right to terminate the contract. Fourth, if some family has financial issues, you can also negotiate with the family to come up with a plan. For example, dividing their late payments and redistributing over the course of a few months. Right. So you decide on the timeline of this payment every week or every month based on the normal tuition. You can include the amounts of the late payment until all of the payments is cleared to give them more time to pay. In conclusion, you are the business owner. You have the right to come up with your own policy. Next slide, please.
Now, we will talk about facility closures and vacations. This is when you close your childcare provider service. It is valid to charge a fee while you're in closure. Many childcare providers should refer to local school calendars in your local school district. Use that as a reference to set your own calendar. You could try to set up your own calendar. There are 10 federal holidays that you could choose, but you could also add other holidays, for example, Ramadan, Independence Day. You could also design paid leave, birthday vacation, days off, paid leave. Because all other industries have paid leaves, we as childcare providers should have that as well. And if we are well rested, we are a better service provider as well. You should also check with the compensation agencies for payment. For example, I mentioned that Choices for Children families are my clients. For example, they have 10 holidays that you can choose from. So they will pay for the 10 holidays. And my childcare service, aside from 10 federal holidays, I will also have 5 holiday closure times in total, not to mention summer break and summer vacation. Parents pay for all of these holidays. We communicate our needs and they can understand. Because early childhood education is a challenging job. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about attendance. There are a few things to note. First of all, you should state in the contract that tuition is secured based on spots instead of based on attendance. For example, if someone is sick and could not attend daycare, could you talk to parents about you reserved a spot for the kid even if the kid is not here, you still have to pay for electricity, rent, everybody who you're employing. It's not because that a child does not show up that your expenses will be reduced. If parents keep paying along this logic, then the spot for this kid should be reserved. You simply cannot say that because the child has been absent for a month or an extended period of time, that you will recruit someone else. So the restriction is on both sides. If the child is receiving compensation or benefits from any agencies, then you should also take care to notify the agency who are providing the compensation or the benefits about to alert them of the child's absence. Next slide, please.
好，现在我们谈一下这个豁免权，英文里面叫 right to waive。
Now let's talk about right to waive.
所以呢，
this is very important.
业务，所以您有权豁免合同中写明的任何条款。
Because this is your business, you have the right to waive.
我们建议始终执行
protects you in case you choose not to reinforce all your terms all the time.
你说到做到，我们合同中写了什么，那你就要，既然你制定合
So this means
就尽量的，对吧？你自己
that you will try your
约束的
best
就自己一定要执行。
to comply with everything that's been listed in the contract.
那这个条款的作用就在于
So the right to waive's function
人毕竟是灵活的，对吧？您选择
lies in the fact that we humans are fluid, more fluid than regulations and rules. So in instances when there are exceptions, you still hold the right
比方说家
to
长有一次有一天接小朋友迟到了
to certain procedures. For
那您当时
example,
就觉得哎呀这是第一
a
次
parent
我
might be
就
late
收费了不收费了下一次
with
他又迟到了
with the kid, and you might decide
啊
that
我
I'm
现在
going
要
to
说
waive
按我的这个制度
the
来
late fee
那他说你
for the
上次
first
没有说
time,
啊那你这个合同就无效啊
and next time
那如果你
it
没有
happens
这个
again and you want
豁
to
免权
reinforce
那他说的
this,
就是对的你既然你
So
这个没有执行那这个合同相当于就无效了
the parent might say that you did not charge me last time. Why are you charging me this time? Therefore, it's important to have the right to waive because you can tell them that you were acting in good faith in the first instance, but in the second instance, the right to waive still give you the power to reinforce all your terms all the time. A failure to enforce one or more terms of this contract does not waive the provider's right to enforce any other term of this contract. Next slide, please.
好的到现在呢我们这个关于合同的培训
Okay.
就结束了
At this stage, we are wrapping up our
这
training
个休息时间
about
休息时间呢
contract.
我们可以
We will have 20-minute
上厕所
break.
呀
You
或者要吃
could
点东西呀
Go to the bathroom, grab some snacks, get some water, do what your body feels like. Now it's 9:55. So We will come back and reconvene at 10:15.
好，我们现在开始20分钟的休息时间。
All right, the 20-minute break starts from now. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone. We are on break and we will return at 10:15. Thank you.
Hola a todos, estamos en un receso y regresaremos a las 10:15.
大家好，我们现在还在休息中，15分钟以后，也就是10点15后会回来，谢谢。
Hello, for those who are joining late, we are on break until 10:15. Thank you.
Hola, para aquellos que se estén uniendo tarde, estamos tomando un receso hasta las 10:15.
呃，现在加入的人们，我们现在还在休息中，我们在10点15分的时候会回来，谢谢。
Thank you, everyone. We are now coming back from our break. Please remember to have your language selected as we are translating this presentation in English, Spanish, and in Mandarin. If you are hearing two languages at once, you can click where the language globe is and select Mute the original audio. You you only want to do this when you hear the two languages. If at any time you don't hear any language, go back to the globe and select unmute the unmute the original audio.
Gracias a todos. Estamos regresando de el receso. Asegúrense de tener su canal de idioma escogido. Si escuchan dos idiomas a la vez, pueden ir al icono terráqueo y seleccionar enmudecer idioma original. Si en cualquier momento desean escuchar el idioma original también, pueden regresar al icono y
大
permitir
家
que el idioma
好。
original se oiga.
如果说现在我们要确保您能够听到您想要选择到的语言，请点击屏幕下方三个点的部分去选择您的那个翻译的这个功能。谢谢。
Also, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will address them in our question and answer portion of the presentation.
También si
We-
tienen cualquier pregunta, pónganla en el chat y las contestaremos durante la sección de preguntas y respuestas.
如果说您有问题的话，请把您的问题放在发在聊天室里，然后我们在会议的最后一个部分将会回答您的问题。谢谢。
We are now going to start our presentation on policy handbooks. Next slide, please. What is a policy handbook? A policy handbook is how you are going to identify, establish, and communicate the rules for your program to the parents, legal guardians, and the staff in your program. The policy handbook is a document that contains information about you and your business. It includes the policies and procedures of your program, and it will not be held up in court. The handbook tends to be longer than the contract. For example, my contract is 5 pages long, while my handbook is 38 pages long. There is no one size fits all when it comes to policy handbooks because all of us are different and each one of us runs our program differently. For example, my policy on meals and nutrition states Love Muffins Preschool and Childcare participates in the California Child Food and Nutrition Program to provide nutritionally balanced meals and snacks. Meals are served family style to encourage social interaction and table manners. Water is available all day, both indoors and outdoors. We are a nut-free facility. This includes, but is not limited to, peanuts, tree nuts, walnuts, pecans, and pistachios. Please do not send outside food or drinks unless prior approval is given. This is an example of what my food and nutrition policy is. Each program is going to be distinct, and the way we manage our program is going to be unique to us. Please do not take a random handbook and download it from the internet without changing the verbiage and making it your own, as it may not align with your language, expectations, or the rules of your program. You want to make sure that your handbook sounds like you and has your program values. Next slide, please. Why should you have a policy handbook? Your policy handbook allows you to communicate and set clear expectations for the parents and guardians and any other person who may come to support or help you in your program. Whenever policies and procedures are not documented, there are room for individuals to establish their own rules and for misunderstandings. A policy handbook ensures that everyone is on the same page and establishes a formal agreement between you and the families that you serve. Your policy handbook tells the parents your story, your childcare philosophy and mission statement. Do you have business liability insurance? In my handbook, I also include my internship program with our local community college. This partnership allows students to complete their clinical hours in our childcare program. It benefits both my program and the students that are participating. I explained this to families that the requirements for the students to be admitted into my facility. Implementing these measures not only strengthens your professionalism, but it also serves as a clear indicator to the families of your high quality program. As a reminder, in your handbook, you want to avoid discussing money or time related matters. These have already been addressed by Sierra in the contract portion of our webinar. It is important to note that only the terms outlined in the contract regarding money and time will be considered in legal matters. Next slide, please. 11 must of a handbook. Here are the 11 policies that you must include in your handbook. 1. Provider's biography. You want to introduce yourself, share your background, your experiences, what's your education, qualifications, and any special certifications or classes that you have taken in early childhood education. 2. Your program philosophy. You want to explain how your program operates and what principles guide your approach. My program's approach is a nature-based and outdoor learning program. 3. Your sick and medication policy. You want to detail what to do if a child becomes sick at home or during the time that they are in your child care program and how you handle medication, whether it's prescription or over the counter. In my handbook, my sick policy is about 6 pages long. I include what the illness is, what the symptoms are, and how long a child needs to stay home. I made this sick policy chart because I had a parent call me and tell me that their child had scabies. I didn't know what scabies was. I had to look it up and call a nurse to find out more information. I also had a parent who had a 2-year-old who had pink eye. She went to the doctor's office, and the doctor told the mother that she could bring the child back that same day. As we all know, there is no way possible that a 2-year-old is not going to touch and rub their own eyes, let alone not touch the toys or their friends after rubbing their eyes. I told the parent that she could not come back for 48 hours after the first treatment and that she could not have any discharge from their eyes. Having this sick policy that has my rules on when a child can come back has saved me from having conflicts with the parents about when their child needs to stay home. Number 4, the potty training policy. You want to outline your procedures and approach to potty training. When will you start the potty training? Do the parents need to start at home? Will you help with potty training or not? Do they need to bring extra clothes? Number 5, the diapering policy. You want to explain how you handle diapering. including your changing procedures and what supplies are needed. Do the parents need to supply the diapers and the wipes, or do you supply them for the children in your program? Number 6, your nap time policy. You want to describe when and how naps are scheduled and any related procedures that you use. In my handbook, I tell parents that naps are scheduled between 1 and 3 p.m. And I ask them to schedule the pickups for before or after that time to limit the disruptions for all the children in the program. Number 7, your discipline policy. You want to clarify what is your approach to discipline and behavior management. What are you going to do when a child is fighting over a toy? What happens if a child hits or bites another child? Do you have a special method that you use to help the child regulate their emotions when they are upset so they use their words instead of being physical with another child? Number 8, what are your house rules? You want to list what your rules and expectations for behavior and safety within your program space. What entrance do the parents use for pickup or drop off? In my program, we have the children drop off their children by 9 a.m. daily. Do you have a certain time that you have to have the parents drop off their children? Number 9, what is your daily schedule? You want to provide a breakdown of the daily routine, including the activities and the meal times. Number 10, COVID and infectious disease policy. You want to include what your protocols are for handling contagious illnesses. In the COVID-19 pandemic, we have learned that we need to have policies for what would happen if there was a pandemic. Will you stay open? Will you be closed? What are your procedures? How long they need to stay home if they happen to get the infectious disease? Those type of things. Number 11, right to waive. This is also a must in your policy handbook because if the terms outlined are not followed every single time, your handbook becomes invalid. Please remember that your policy handbook outlines your family childcare program, your business information, and your client's responsibilities. The handbook is a perfect place to identify and incorporate those features that make your program unique and the benefits to your customers who are the parents and their children. One example can be that you may use a specialized curriculum or a teaching approach. My program is nature-based and we use an outdoor approach. And the benefit of this to the families is that it allows the children to learn from nature and be creative with their learning. Next slide, please. Communicating your contract in the handbook. Communicating your contract and handbook is very important and must be addressed. You want to address it during the child's registration. In my program, I go over every page of my handbook during the initial interview with the parents. That way, if the parents choose my program for their child, they know ahead of time what my expectations are and how my program is run. You also want to review your handbook annually. When you review it, you want to think about all of the concerns, conflicts, and new things that you have implemented in your program. These are the things that you want to add in your review. Ensuring that you reviewed and read each section of the policies of your program with the families, and when you update the handbook, you want to make sure that you provide them with a copy. We highly recommend that when you're reviewing your policy handbook, you do it either in person or you could do it via Zoom. I know a provider, she does it via Zoom every year. She gets all the families together and she just talks about what the changes are. I go ahead and do that as well, and I also send them a copy that they have to sign and return back to me. Your right to waive. This is a must in all handbooks because if the terms are not outlined, are not followed through in your handbook, then it becomes invalid. I know Sierra went over this in the contracts portion, but I want to reiterate it because it is so important. I will repeat the verbiage. A failure to enforce one or more terms of this contract does not waive the provider's right to enforce any other terms of this contract or handbook. This version clarifies that even if certain terms are not enforced all the time, it does not mean that the provider gives up the right to enforce the terms at a later date. It also emphasizes the importance of flexibility with the families in our program without giving up your right to decide that you want to follow the rules that you have put in place in your contract or handbook. Next, we will go, next slide, please. We have come to our question and answer portion. Thank you for staying with us with this presentation. We are ready to answer your questions. If you have a question that you have not put in the chat, please do so now. Okay, so the first question that I see says, what happens when the CAP SLO agency is giving that referral to the parents regarding my program's co-payments and policies? Can the person who wrote that question, can you come off mute and explain a little bit more so I can answer you properly?
嗯，我不知道那个提问人是不是在有解释，或者我可以尝试替他说明一下。
Oh, I don't know if the person has explained, but I can try to elaborate on their behalf.
Sounds good, Sierra. Thank you.
OK，根据我的理解他可能
According to
是
my
说这个机
understanding,
构哈，这个机构如果我没
I
有
think
猜
they
错
might
的
be
话，是叫
saying
做
that the
Community
organization,
Action Partnership，
this organization is called Community Action
Based
Partnership
St. Louis
based in
Obispo
St.
County
Louis.
这个机构，
So this organization,
当他是在就是跟家长沟通的时候，
when they are negotiating,
会向
communicating
他
with the
们说到
parents,
我这里有自付费用的部分，
they might say that,
那我该怎么办？
we have the
如果我
self-payment
说对了的话， 我
plan.
觉得一般来
What
说，
should we do? So if I'm
像这
correct
种
in
补贴
interpreting
机构
this, so these
是
kinds of
不会
subsidy
参与到
organizations will
你
not
的这个幼儿园
participate
的政策决定的，他不会
in
说
formulating
这
the
个机构可
policy
能
for
会收取
your
这个自付费用，
daycare
这
center.
个我至少在我在跟我交涉的这些机构，他们
So
是
from
由
what
我们自
my
行决定的。
interactions with
如
these
果你的机构
organizations,
有
I
跟别
think
人
that
说这个也没有关
I
系，
have
因
to
为
come up
的
with the
确
policy
是
myself.
一定要收取这个费用的话，那 你可以公开的跟他们说明
So
啊，
if
如果
indeed
是你们来
you
capsule 资助的这个家庭，那我们的收费标准会高一些，所以我们会向家庭征收这部分的这个支付费用。
So we will be asking the parents to take care of the self-payment part.
如果您觉得这个解释不够清楚，还
So
请
if you
您把
feel
您的
like
问
this
题
explanation is
再
not
详
sufficient,
细说清楚，可以在场的聊
you
天室。
can please explain your question in more detail and put it in the chat, please.
好，那我们接下来呢，就进入到第二个问题。
So now we will begin,
第二
we
个
will
问题
continue to
就
the second
是
question. The second question is,
是对于是父亲还是母亲还是小孩这个有一些困惑。
so some confusion regarding the
来
father
解释
or the
一下。
mother or the child. Let me
有可能
explain.
这个提问者说的是在
Perhaps
签署合
this
同的
person
时
is
候，
asking
合
about
同
when signing
双
the
方
contract,
都要签名
both
这个概念。
parties of the
是
contract
的，
have to
我们指
sign.
的是合同的双方是
Yes,
指父母亲
we
双
are
方，
referring
或者有
to
时候是
the
一些监护人
parents
呢，法定监护人。
or
那
the
如果
legal
是两个
guardian
法
of
定
the
监护人，
child.
那我们就要求两个都需要签
So
字。
if there are
那如果只有
two
一个法
legal
定监护
guardians,
人，
we're
那我们
asking
就
both
是
of
一
them
个。
to do it.
但只要是有两方，比方说是有父
If
母亲，
there
爸
are
爸和妈妈
two
那你一定要是
guardians, for
双
example,
方
mother and
都要在
father,
合同上
you have to
签字。
ask both of them to
我
sign
希望
the
这个解
contract.
释足够清楚。
Hope this is
下
sufficient.
一个问题将由
Uh,
Rachel 来回答。
Moving on to the next question. Rachel, please, can you take over?
How do my program's policies work, such as registration and deposits with families in the subsidized program? When parents are told about these costs, they often refuse to pay. So, like I said, in the beginning, I go over my handbook and I let the parents know what my policies are. And so if I have a deposit or a registration fee, they know that at the beginning and they understand that that is something that they have to pay and that the subsidized program may not pay for it and that they would have to pay for it out of pocket. The way I work with the parents is I tell them that they can pay for the deposit or the registration a little bit at a time. So we can set up a payment plan so that they are paying for it as they are receiving childcare at the same time. I hope that answers your question. So our next question is how much time is reasonable to
好，
take
接下
for a
来这个
vacation?
问题是说，休假多久才算是合理的
Okay,
要
the
休
next
多久的假才算
next
是合理？
question is what is a reasonable
这个呢，
amount of
的确是
time
一
or
个很好
days
的
to
问
take
题，
vacation or take a
要
break?
根据你自己
This
的
is a very good
条件性来
question.
确定，也根据你自身
So
的
you
情
have to
况，
assess your own
对
situation.
吧？因为呢，有一些幼儿园刚刚
For
创
some
建，
daycare centers,
我能够
right
理
after
解，
they're founded,
有
we
可能
understand
您需
that
要多一些
perhaps
学生，
you
那
need
当
more
然，如果你
students,
的假
more
期
and more
很
children.
长，会影
So
响
if you take
你
a
的
longer
这个
break,
收，
that
就是这
will
个
influence or
学生的这
impact
个人数，对吧？
the
因为
number of
很多
kids
我
you're
们
able to
会
take
希
in.
望，有很多的这个
So
幼儿园有很多假期，
yeah,
那你的
many
假
parents
期是
don't
短一
wish
些的，
that
自
the
然的
centers don't take
会
as
让
many
家长们更
breaks.
喜欢。所
So
以您
naturally,
自
the
己
less
要
taking less
决定
breaks
这么一个平
will
衡，
please the parents more.
就是
So
我
you will
愿
have
意
to determine
愿意给家长
the
提供
balance.
多少的服务，那我自
How
己
much
也有要
service
保障
do
我自
we
己
want
的这
to
个休假
provide
权
the
益，
parents?
因
Now
为
we
这
want
个休假
to
对我来说
ascertain our
从
own
一
rights
开始
to
我
take
就觉
breaks.
得很重要，
For
因为
us,
我
so if
希
for
望
you,
我提供
it's
的是
really
非常
important
高品质的
that
早
you know from the
期
beginning
教
that
育，
you are
那
providing
希望
high
很
quality
多的
early
经历
education.
是一个很好的保
You
障
are
的工
putting
作。
a lot of attention and energy into this work, then I need to take breaks in order to recharge. So for me, in the very beginning, I am making it very clear that I need 5 weeks of vacation in a year. So you need to communicate this clearly to the parents from the very beginning to give them enough time that right as they enroll, they have an expectation that I am taking breaks for this amount of time. So both parties are enter into willing agreement. So this is to prevent the parents from complaining or be displeased later on. Right. So you need to make sure that they know your situation. So if you are confident that, I am providing a good service, then you should be able to take this amount of breaks. But if you feel like this will negatively impact the number of kids you can take in, then you decide otherwise. So this really depends on how willing you are to take breaks. Hope this answers the question. Next question, Rachel, you can take over.
How do parents pay for additional holidays? So, like Sierra was talking about, you want to set that up at the very beginning when you are interviewing with them. You want to let them know what your holiday schedule is. And so that way you don't have any confusion and you let them know that it is included in their rates and they're paying based on enrollment and not on attendance. If you are talking about with the subsidies, because they only allot for a certain amount of days for you to have as paid days off, you can charge the parents for that additional day if it comes off of your subsidy payment. But the way that we are getting paid for the subsidies is that if they are over 25 hours, you should be getting the full-time rate. So even if you take that additional day that if they're coming more than the 25 hours, you should still be getting your full-time rate. Sierra, you want to take the next one?
好的，我先想就前面那个问题再补充一下，
So I want to elaborate on the previous
就是
question.
如何为额外的假期来付学费呢？像我的
So
话，
how do we pay
我是每
tuition
个月
for
在
additional
每个月的
holidays?
5号之前支付下个月的学费。那每个月
So
这个是一
say
样
I
的
am
哦，
paying
就是如果
tuition
你下个月
for
有假
after the
期，
5th of the
那你
month.
的学费是一样的，
So
你就照付。
so
不
if
是
you
说我
take
额外的
vacation
去
in the
给他
next month,
再支付这个
you are
钱，
still
是
paying the
包含在我
tuition.
的合
It
同里面，
includes
每
in
个
the
月
contract
我都是同
for
样的
every
收费。
month
那
I
么
am
不管
charging
这
the
些
same tuition,
有假期没
then
假期，
doesn't
都
matter
是
if
同样的
I
收
take a
费。这
vacation
样
or
你
not.
的
I
假期就
am
已经被这个
charging the same
已
amount.
经富含了。好，接下来我来回答下面的一个问题。下面的问题
Now
是说，
I
我是
will
否应该
take the next
和
question.
Capsule， 就是前面提到的这个
So with
Community
Capsule,
Action Partnership of San Luis Obispo County 这样的，或
so
者
this
其他的一些
organization,
这个补贴
Capsule,
机构来分
or other
析我
subsidy
的合同。
organizations. So should I
这
share
个
my
呢，
contract with
要
these
根据
organizations?
各个补贴机构的
So
规定，
this depends
根据
on
我自己的经
the
验，
policies of
是
each
跟
subsidy organization.
Choices of Children 有合
So
作，
for
他们
me,
没有
I
要求，
have collaborated with
没有要求我跟他
the
们
children of
分享合
St.
同。
Louis,
如
but
果
they have
在
not asked
前
me to
期
share
的
my
时候，就是
contract.
你跟这些机构刚开始建立联系，
Maybe it is
希
because
望
as
他
you
们
are
向我
just
们
starting to build
推送
relationships with
这个
these
学生，就是那
organizations,
些补贴家庭的
you are hoping for
看我
them
的
to
语言
guide kids your way to your center, then in the early phases,
很长时间我都不记得了。但即便是他们要求你
so even
跟
if
他们分
they
享您的合同，
ask you
我
to
觉得也
share
未尝不可。
your
您
contract
的
with
合同
them,
是要跟家长分
it
享，
shouldn't
那
be
也
that much of
可
a
以
problem.
跟这些机构分
You
享，
are
没有什
sharing
么
the
关系，
contract
没有
anyway with the parents, then it shouldn't be a problem that you share it with these
下一个问题
organizations.
将由我的同事 Rachel 来解答。
Oh, sorry. Rachel, can you take over, please?
Yes. The next question that I see, it says, Capslo is giving a referral about my program, stating that I request co-payments and that they are also not fair to providers. So, I believe your question is that that the agency that you are using is saying that you are having to have a co-payment. So sometimes that happens because your rate is higher than the rate that the subsidy agency is paying. It's either that or sometimes the families will have a portion of your rate that they need to pay as a family fee. So either one of those could make it to where the parent would have to provide you a payment along with the payment that you are getting from the subsidy agency. So in that case, you would just request it from the family. You can have them do it weekly, monthly. I know in my program, I just have them do it monthly or bi-weekly. That's usually how they get paid. And then I just send them the invoice and then they pay what they have their portion of it. And the subsidy pays me the rest of it. Sarah, would you like to take the next question? I see the next question is I would like to ask, will you send us the slides? Yes, the slides and will be emailed to you from the training fund within the next week. Sierra, you want to take the next question?
I don't look for much.
So the next question that I see says, at what age do parents stop paying for a child? I think if you are providing care for a child, the parents would have to pay you for that. You are providing them with the service. Maybe the person asking this question can unmute themselves and give me a little bit more information.
呃，我没有看到有人来站出来说，所以我
I
想
haven't seen anyone
看看是不
explain
是这样
this,
理解，
so I want to see if I can understand
是
it
不
this
是
way.
说
I did not
是不是
see
说
Are you
anyone
saying
unmute
是不是为
themselves.
孩子
So I'm going to
that
try
when
to
parents can
understand this
stop
question. According to
payment
my
for their
understanding,
children, if at your daycare center,
as long as
they
they're
need to
using your
pay in
service,
one
then
go,
they have to pay
but
you.
in
However,
the case that the child
if you're
at the public school,
um,
uh,
if kids are at public school,
so because of universal
so
pre-K, that is
nationwide, we already
enforced
have the new
throughout the
concept of
country. So
pre
at public
universal
schools,
pre-K. When
children who are
kids
4 years
reach age
old enter
4
into
and
public
go to public
school,
school,
then they're
you
paying taxes.
as a taxpayer,
So when they enter into TK stage,
you can send your
then they
kid
don't need to
to
pay.
the TK program,
I don't know if this
which
has
is
answered the
free.
question.
Fanyi, Maya, there's two people interpreting right now. Can one person just interpret? Thank you.
Okay.
那我们接下来说下面一个问题，说是可不可以给我发一份我们地区的这个市场参考？我认为是前面我提到的市场参考价格吧，市场参考率的这个一个标准。可以的，我们会把这个
Fanyi,
链
can you
接哈
interpret
再发
for
到
English,
聊天
please?
室里
Thank you.
Rachel 可以请你把刚才说的这个 RMR 那个市场是2018年的市场参考价麻
So
烦你再
Rachel,
发
can you
到
send
聊天室
the
那你
subsidy
打开这个
rate
链接以
for
后
2018
应
into the
该
chat
去
into
选
the
择
chat,
你自
please?
己的区域
So
再
when
看一
you
下
click the
你们
link,
当地
can
的
you
这
please
一个这
select
个市场
your
价
locality, the region that
我
you're
希望
based,
这
and then
个
you
回
can
答
look
了
at
这
the
个问
rate
题
for your specific location.
嗯
Hope this answers the
下面有一
question.
个是说，您能提供平均日托费用的网页链接吗？我认
So
为这个可能说的是同一个
now the
概念，
question is,
就是刚才
can
说
you
的
provide the link
RMR
to
这同一个市场参考价的
this?
这个链接。
I think this is the
刚才
same as the
我们
previous
说到
question, the
比如说
RMR.
Rachel 会把这个链接
So as
发
I
在聊
said,
天室，
my
你
colleague
可以自己
Rachel will
查一
send
下。
this link to the chat and you can look at it
接
after.
下来应该是
Now,
我们是否可以获得一份这
the
个
next
政策手
question,
册的这个
so
范本？
can we get a
这个
sample
政策手
or
册的范
for
本
the policy
Rachel
handbook?
这个问题你回答一下吧。
Rachel, can you answer this question, please?
You will receive the slides, and on the slides, it will have some information about the handbooks. Like we said, you can go on to the internet and look up a policy handbook, but you just want to make sure that you go ahead and put your words and your verbiage on there, and don't just use the one strictly from the one that you find and download from the internet. So you want to make sure that you change it and make it fit for your program. We're just giving examples at the training so that you can kind of see and think about what you do in your daily program and how you want to add and adjust it. So the next question we have is, what happened if parents want part-time of 1 day after paying the 2 weeks deposit and decided to go for more days? Will they pay for those days? So, if you have a parent put in a deposit, they are paying for those hours. And so, what you want to do is be very specific in your contract on the hours that those parents are doing. And you want to tell them that it isn't based on enrollment in the program and not on the attendance. So, say you have a parent who pays you the deposit for full time for 2 weeks, and then they decide to pick up their kids early for the first week. So in that scenario, you would tell them that they enrolled in a space for full time. And even if they decide to pick up their child early, you are still saving the space for them as a full time space. And you could tell them that you want, if they want to talk about changing their hours to a part-time schedule instead of the full-time schedule, that you guys can talk about that and see if that fits within your program. But they will not get a discount if they just decide to to pick up their children earlier. Sierra, do you want to take the next question?
好的，呃，
Okay.
下面这个问题呀，挺长的。
Now
我
this
看呢，
question
它
is
是
quite
说，
long.
它是 Rebecca Gomez
I
来自
see
圣地亚
that
哥。
they are Rebecca
呃，
Gomez from San
他的问题
Diego.
是呢，
The
您是
question
否知道
is
有任何正在发放
whether there are
补助
any
金的机
grants
构？
that are
有
given
人告诉
out.
我被
Some
选中
people
的
have
特
told
别补助
me
金，
that I have been
一
selected for the
天有3个
grants.
人从这个
Supposedly, there are three
SBA 一个
people
小
who spoke to
型企业
me
管理局
from
跟
the
我通话。
SBA, the Small
他
Business
说的是第一个跟
Administration.
我通话的人叫做
So the
Edwin
first
Garcia，
person
另
is
一个
called
是
Edwin
自称
Garcia.
是从华盛顿
The
来
other
电
says
话
that
的
he
人
is
叫
calling from
Ricardo
Washington,
Casas。
called Ricardo
呃，
Casas.
他就是 Rebecca 觉得
Rebecca
就
thinks
是有点
that
起疑的
that
是，
it is
第一个打电
suspicious
话给我的人
that
坚
the
持要
first
用西班牙
person
语说
called
话。
me
我告诉
insisted that we
他
speak
我
in
会说
Spanish,
英文
and
没
I
有问
told
题。
him that
当我回
it
拨
was
时接电话的还
not a
是
problem
同一
that
个
I
人。
understood English.
如
When I
果
called
能帮
back,
我查明
the
这
same
是真
person
的还是骗
answered.
局，我
So if you
将
can
马
help me
上向
find
你说
out
明。
this is a
这个呢，
real
我
or a
最初的
scam or
反应
not.
呢，就
So
觉
my
得这
first
个
reaction
SBA 好像是一
is
种，
that
并不
the
是赔
SBA
偿提供
is
的这个
not
补助金，
a
有可能是一
organization
种
providing
贷
subsidy
款
free
吧。
of cost,
我
that
我
it
觉得是
could
比较
be
是可能是一个骗局来的，因为我
that it
从
could
来
be
没
a
有
scam.
听说过
I have never
SBA
heard
会
of
给
something
这个
like that.
给幼儿园提供
I have
补
never
助
heard
金。
of such a
基本上来
case.
说呢，这些补助机
That
构都是
organization that provides
前面我已经
loans.
提过了
As I mentioned
Children
before,
Cadango，
Children
CalWorks，
Cadango,
还有
CalWorks,
Go Kids。
Go
然后刚才
Kids,
前面还有我也知道叫 Capslo 是 Community Action
and
Partnership of San Luis
Capslo.
Obispo County， 这些都是
So
美
these
国众所周知的一些补助机
are
构。
often
但
universally
是这个
known
SBA 对
subsidy
我自身的
organizations.
感觉应该是一个骗
From
局，
my
所以
own
他们
experience,
如
I
果
think
说有
that
可
the
能提供的
SBA
是
is a
这种
scam.
贷
So
款，
even if
你
they,
觉
what
得
they
呢？
can
我
provide
是
you
不
is
是有误？
likely a
所以在
loan.
这个问题上，你有没有一些什么要添加的？
What are your thoughts on this, Rachel?
My thoughts would be to look up your local SBA and not call the number that they gave you and actually go on Google and look up the SBA and call the number that is on the SBA's website and talk to them. I could not tell you that if it was a scam or not, but usually the SBA would not contact you unless you have already applied for a loan from them, from the Small Business Administration. Um, so that would be my suggestion would be for you to actually look up their actual phone number and call them directly. I wouldn't call these numbers back. The SBA does not usually just call people and tell them that they have been selected for a grant. That sounds a little suspicious for me. So the next question that I see says only 10 days of vacation. So I think that the question is asking about subsidies. So for subsidy programs, you only get 10 paid days of vacation or 10 paid days of time off for closures. So that's how it works for the subsidy. But It is your program. You choose what works best for you. Like Sierra said, she takes 5 weeks off. That's her program, and that's what she does in her program. In my program, we take 3 weeks off. If you aren't taking vacation off, you can always start it and slowly introduce it to your parents and talk about it and say, for next year, I'll be taking 1 week of paid vacation. And then you have it in your handbook and your contract so that they know and understand. Usually, parents are pretty good about it if you give them a heads up ahead of time. I usually tell them for vacation in January so they can already plan and have a backup plan for when we are closed. So at this time, that was the last question that we are taking for right now, and we are going to go into our Know Your Rights presentation. All of the questions that you had that may not have gotten answered, we will be you will be receiving those answers to those questions via the training fund within the next week or so. If you have any other questions, you are welcome to put them in the chat, and like I said, they will answer them within the next week. I'm going to pass it over to Sierra to do our Know Your Rights presentation.
Sierra, you're muted. Wait. What? Hello? What? Why am I not hearing this?
Sierra, you're muted.
Sierra, your microphone is muted.
Oops. Speaking to.
Sierra，你现在在静音。
Oh my god！哦，真抱歉，我都非常抱歉，我刚才都静音了。好，我刚才有说到，就是
Sorry that I
发
but I
现
was
有人
muted.
举手，如果您有问
I
题，
was just
就
saying
是
that
您在聊天室
I
里
see
写
that
下你
some
的问
people
题，
have raised their
因
hands.
为我
I
们
will
所
ask
有
you
人
to
都是
put your
有手
question
举
in the
手把
chat.
问题
I am
写在
ask
聊
we are
天室。
asking everyone to do this, so please just send it in the
我
chat.
也非常感谢大家在星期六的上午
I am very
来参
thankful
加
that
我们的培
everyone
训，因为
is
这个周
calling
末对大家
in
来
on a
说是
Saturday
非常
morning.
宝贵的，
I know that
特别
weekends are
是
very
是你
precious,
们的
so
参
we
与。
are thankful for your
好，现在呢，我们
participation.
就开始知
Okay,
晓您的权
now
利。
we are starting our Know Your Rights training.
有鉴于目前的局势，
So
我
based
们
on current
CCPU 培训基金
situations,
希望为您、
our
您的
CCPU
员工
training
以及
fund
您所服务的
wants
家
to
庭，在
provide
与美国
you
移民
and
及
the
海
family
关
you
执
are
法局
serving
英文名
that
称 ICE
so in light of
的交
ICE.
涉中有可能会遇
So
到的麻烦，
we
值
want to
得
inform
对
you
此
of the
有帮助。
situation that might
这
arise
种
between
局
you
势
and
影
ICE.
响到
We
每
want to
一位
provide
个人。
services and help.
我们的目的就
So
是
this
让
impacts
您
all
有
of
权
us.
有知
So our
晓权，
goal
并且
is to
提
let you
前
know that
做
you
好
have
准备。
rights and for
这
you
个
to
知
prepare
晓
in
的权利的培
advance.
训是今晚培训的一个
So
重要部分，
this Know
能
Your
够为
Rights
您
section
提供
is a
重要
very
的辅
important
导和
section
建
of
议。
our seminar
我
today.
们深知这是一件
So we
非常
know
棘手的话题，
that this is a
我们
very
尽可能的
difficult
为
topic.
您提
We will do our best to provide our help. And please know that this is not legal counsel. We're not lawyers. If your question exceeds what we can answer, we advise you to find a immigration lawyer, or in all. No, we hope that everyone can treat each other with respect and kindness. So we have to help each other. Your health, both physical and mental, is very important to us. Now let's start on the training. So that when you're interacting with ICE or immigration enforcement officers, you know your rights. So you can learn the following. First, in different situations, when you encounter FBI, the police, or ICE agents, you should know the following. Can we go back to the previous slide? Oh, wait, no. So, yeah. So if you see emergency officers at your workplace, so everything that we see here, you can share with the families that you're serving. So please do not reveal any personal information about your immigration identity. Next slide, please. Oh, previous slide. Previous slide. Regardless of your immigration status, you enjoy rights. Next slide, please. In this training, I will repeatedly refer to Know Your Rights cards. So the goal of this card is for you to remember clearly your rights. So in light of emergency interactions with the ICE officers, this is for you to remember your rights. Next slide, please. So now we are talking about what happens in the home. So when officers are trying to enter your residence, so they need to fulfill one of the following. So they need to have a valid warrant signed by a judge, or they need to get permission from the resident. So they need to fulfill at least one criteria. Second, if they do not have a valid warrant, then the resident has the right to not open the door. So if you do open the door, then that can be interpreted that you give permission for them to enter. So please remember, do not open the door easily. Third, even if they have a valid warrant, then that doesn't mean that you are obligated to answer questions. Fourth, if the officer asks questions and the resident wants to remain silent, then you should say it. Or you show the officer your Know Your Rights card. So these are the procedures. 1, do not open the door. Second, always ask for identification from the enforcement officer. They might try to deceive you, threaten you, or to try to enter. You can try to see the identification from the window just to ascertain. Do not open the door in haste. Third, ask from the officer whether they have a warrant. The fourth step, If they do not have a warrant, then they do not have the right to enter your place of residence. You can ask them to leave. If they have a warrant, then you have a right to look at the warrant. Ask them to slide the warrant underneath the door or give it to you through the window. Please remember, do not open the door. The fifth step, please read all the articles of the warrant. There are different types of warrants, and each warrant a different type of response. A valid warrant has to include certain information. If it doesn't include certain information, then it is not warrant. This means that the enforcement officer has no right to enter your home. It's important, depending on the state that you live, the warrant may look different. So now we're going to introduce different types of warrants and look at what information the warrants should include for them to be effective. Next slide, please. Now we're going to talk about what a valid search warrant looks like. First, they should be signed by a judge, justice of the peace, or a magistrate. Second, they must contain the address of the home to be searched. Third, they must describe the area to be searched. This doesn't mean the warrant allows them to enter into every corner of your home. It must be specified in the warrant. In some cases, the warrant may be multiple pages to list out what is listed to be searched. So if they do not have an effective warrant, you can say that this is not an effective warrant. You do not have the right, please leave. Number 5, if the officer holds a valid permit, then you must allow them to enter. After they enter, you can say, I do not consent to you searching my home. So this can limit the parameter that they're able to search. Number 6, you have to observe at every moment what the enforcement officer is doing, whether they are exceeding the area that is to be searched. If they take any of your belongings, please ask for a receipt. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now we're talking about what is a valid arrest warrant. Now first, this must be signed by a judge, justice of the peace, or magistrate. Number 2, it must state the name of the person to be arrested. Number 3, they must describe the person to be arrested and their traits. Number 4, if the officer does not have a valid arrest warrant, you can say, this is not an effective arrest warrant. You cannot enter. Please leave. Number 5, if the officer holds a valid arrest warrant and the person is home, then the person has to leave the home and agree and close the door to the home. So if the person named on the warrant is not home, then you must inform the officer, this person is not home, please do not open the door.
不赋予执法人员进入您住所
So
的权利。
so this does not give the officer the right to enter.
你们无权进入我的住所。
You do not have the right to enter.
下一个幻灯片。
Next slide, please.
好，在这里呢，我们要向你们展示几个搜查令的事例哈。你可以看啊，尤其是要关注一下他们签名的位置啊，一定要有他们的签名。
especially the location of where the signatures are located. Next slide, please.
这个呢是另外一个是行政
This
搜查令
is
的事例。
another example for an administrative warrant.
签名的一定要有这个法官
And
这样法官的
this
签名。
also requires
好， 接
a
下来下一个幻灯片。
signature to be legally binding. Next slide, please.
接下来我们来探讨一下在工作场所遇到这些
Now let's talk about how to handle similar situations in the workplace.
移民官或者
First,
警察呀，如果需要进入
law
工作场
enforcement
所，需要满足以下条件之一。
needs to meet one of the two
或者
requirements.
是持有有效的搜查
They
令，
either have to
或者
have
是
a
要获
valid
得
warrant
雇主的许可，
or they need
这是
permission from the
这是一
employer.
个
So they need to meet one of the
切勿
two
指示员工
requirements.
在执法行动的
Then you
前后
also need to
逃跑。如果员工逃跑，
inform
可能
workers
导致
that
其
do not
逮
run
捕或者拘留。
before or after the raid, because
持有
running
搜
away
查
could
令呢，
cause
也并
them
不
to be
意味着
arrested.
您必须回答问题。
Even within a valid warrant,
如果移民
you
官
do
或
not
警
have to
察
answer
问您问
their
题，
questions. You
而您
have
希
workers
望
have the
保
right
持
to
沉
remain
默，
silent.
应当大声说出来。我希望保持沉默。
If you
或
wish
者呢，
to
向执
retain
法
that
人
right,
出示
you should
支
say
持
it out
你的
loud.
权利的卡片。
I have a right to remain silent.
你应该
And you
不仅
should
是
also
制
present
定
them with
定期
your
预
Know Your
案
Right card.
使用工作场所
Lastly,
自查清单 来
please
帮助你
make sure to
实现这个。
proactively make a plan with your coworkers.
今天呢，
And
我们将
6,
讨论
today
应用工作场所的指南。
we
后续啊，
are
我们会
talking
分享
about
更多专门针对
guides
家庭式
on
幼儿园的
general
专项
workplace,
服务内容。
but later we will have a
下一个
section that focuses on family childcare providers. Next slide, please.
好，这里呢，我们来谈一下我们的应对步骤。第一步呢，
All
应
right,
该
now
确
let's
保
talk
工作
about
场
how
所的所
we
有同
handle
事制定好
these
突击检查
situations.
预案。
First of all, make
第二步
sure
呢，如果
to
您不
address the
是
issue in event of a
您应
raid
当
to
与
help
执法
protect
人员
workers
搜
and
查。
families.
那如果您不是雇主，或者雇
However,
主不在场呢，
if the
那 或
employer
者他
is
如
not
果您的雇
present,
主已经同意执法人员进入，
or if
让
the
你另
employer
外指定出
agrees
席对接人与执法人员交谈，那你
for the
要
law
记住
enforcement to
要
enter your
记
premise,
要牢记
then
执法人员可
you
能
should
是
remember
欺骗、恐吓或是威
that
胁你。
law enforcement
第
can
三步，
intimidate,
与执法人员
threat
交谈的对接人呢，应该仔细的
workers.
检查搜查令，并确定其是否有
Anybody
效。
who interfaces
第
with
四，
law
如
enforcement
果
should
执法人
check
员进入你
carefully
的
if they
工作
have
场
all
所，
valid
你有
permits
权
and
保持
warrants.
沉默，请
And
勿
please
提供
remember
任何关
that
于您的移民身份、出生
you
地
have a
或者
right,
您
you
是
always have a
如
right
何
to
何
remain
时来
silent.
到美
And you
国
are
的
not
信用。
obligated to tell them your
切勿
immigration
出示
status
母国证件。
when you arrived in
如
the
果您
United
希望
States.
保持沉默，
Please, if
明
you
确声明，我
wish
希
to
望
remain
保持沉
silent,
默，
please
或
say
者
it out
出示
loud that
支
I
持您
wish
的
to
法律卡片。
remain silent or
第五
present
步，
them with your Know Your
如
Right
果执
card.
法人员搜身、逮捕、
The
拘
fifth
留
step,
您，请一
if
定保持冷
law
静。
enforcement arrests you, please
如果您
remain
被搜
calm
查
and
时，
quiet. Do not
您要声明
resist.
我不同意
please tell them that I do not consent to the warrant or the search. Please, next slide.
好，现在呢，我们看一下
Now
是要注意的几个事项。第一，公共法律顾问组织呢创建了一份家庭应急计划，
there are
帮助主要
public
家庭法
interest
律在面临
organizations
人被某
that
人拘留之
drafted
前呢，需要做出的重要的决定。要熟记1到
items
2个
for
重要的电
family
话
child
当
care
拘留
providers.
时使用。
You need to remember
第三，
1 to 2
要确保可
numbers
能被拘留的人知晓
if
如
you're
何联系律
detained.
师。如果有
Please
人
let
选择
someone know that you
并且
have
呢
been
已经制定
detained
好
and are
合
in
理
need of
的
a
照顾方
lawyer.
案。第
Make
四，
sure that you
要
have
创建一
a
个
backup
包含重要
plan
文件的文
for
件夹。
child
这
care.
个文件夹呢，应该有您那个出生证明、
You
外籍
could
护照、子
also
女的
prepare a
出生证明、
binder
医疗文
that
件、
includes
学
all of
校
your
等
legal
文件
documents,
等等。
such as
而且呢，
your
这个文
birth
件夹应
certificate,
该要存放
your
在一个
citizenship
本人、家属
information,
或者可信的朋
and
友
all of
能够
such
轻
important
易接近
documents.
的地方。
Make sure that the binder is in an accessible location to your important loved ones in the family.
我们好像还是这个幻灯片。
Oh,
留在这个幻灯片吧。 我
uh,
们需要知道我们自己应该知道的一些事项哈，须知的事项。第一，您有
Next
权
slide,
联
please.
系您的领事馆。第二，
Um,
您有权联系，您有权保持沉默。被拘留也并不意
no,
味着您
please
不是
remember
说
that you
的。
have a right to contact your embassy.
您有
You
权
have a
与
right
律
to
师
remain
或者认证代表沟通。
silent, and
您
you
需要自
also
行或
have
者
a
通过
right
家属联系
to
律
have
师、
legal
认证代表。
representation,
这项服务
either
是不会自动提供给您的。
either through yourself or through your
您
loved
有权
ones.
拒
This
绝
service
在
is
与
not
律
granted
师
to
或
you
者是认证代表沟
automatically.
通前呢签署任何文件。就是
You
说，
have a
在签署
right
任何
to
文件之
refuse
前，
signing
您
any
要与
document
律
before
师
have
或者认证代
procuring
表
legal
进行沟通，
documentation.
这样你才清楚是签署什么样的文件。第五，
It-
当您与律师或认证代表沟通的时候，
When you're
除了您的
talking to your
信息
legal
以外，
representation,
请务必告知
besides
既往的
your
逮捕
legal
犯罪记录
arrests,
至关重要。
besides your legal information, any
有
arrest
被驱
records
逐出境
or
外省的
any
人士
run-ins with law
绝对不应
enforcement
该主
are
动前
important
往
information
居
to
留
let
中
them
心
know.
或自动与移民官员接触，这就是等于自投罗网了。一定
And
要非常小
lastly,
心。
this goes
那
without
您应对
saying,
步骤，
do not
应对步骤，
come into voluntary
第
contact
一
with
步
law
要
enforcement
求拨打电话
and
给
turn
联系
yourself in.
紧急联系人，有可能是你的家人，可能是律师、认证代
Remember
表、
to
宗教或者社区组织。
contact your family, your religious
去您的
organization.
领事馆寻求协
That would
助。
be the first step.
第三步，
Second step, you can ask
关
for
于您
help
的
from
移
the
民身
embassy.
份、出生地、来美途径、时间或者犯罪记录等等信息，
The
除了您的
third,
律师、认证代表以外，切勿向
please make
任何
sure
人
do not disclose to
如
anybody
果您希望保
information
持
on
沉
your
默，
legal status,
明
how
确
you
说
entered America,
我希望
all
保
of
持
these
沉默，
important
或者说
immigration
是至少
information
您
should
说的
only
卡
be
住
communicated
您所说的
to
任何话
your
都
legal
可能
representation,
被
not
作
anyone else.
对您不利的证据。
And anything you
第
say
四步，
might be used against you.
您有权拒绝在与
So
律师
please
沟通前
remember to
签署
remain, you
任
have
何
a
文
right to
件。
remain silent.
如果要求签署文件，请
And
声明，在咨询我的律师、
please
认证代表前，
tell
我不
law
会签署
enforcement
任何
that you
文件。
refuse to sign
如果
any
您不理
document
解被要求
before
签署文件
securing
的内
legal
容，
legal
务
representation.
必要求他们解释清楚。
And if you do not understand anything that is
要求
laid
或者
out
使
on the
出庭
document,
通
you
知
can ask them to
以及
explain
您
it
案
to
件
you.
所有其他文件的副本。出庭通知应该包含对
You
你
could
内
request
容以
any
及出庭时
copies
间、
of legal documentation in this procedure. 6, you could apply for bail. You could apply for bail once you're sponsored by an American legal citizen. You could request to have a bail application hearing from the judge. The application requires that you put down your name, your alien number, and your request to have a bail hearing. Please ask for copies from your legal representation of everything from your lawyer. My colleague Rachel will provide you with a list of resources in the chat box. Thank you, Rachel. All of the resources that I have provided you today, please feel free to share them with the families that you're serving. We're trying our best to customize our webinar to family childcare providers. Now, this concludes our formal presentation for this section. I'm going to hand the mic over to Mei Li. Thank everyone for your participation today.
Thank you, Sierra. All right. Thank you to Rachel and Sierra for this wonderful webinar training on contracts and policy handbook, as well as the Know Your Rights presentation. We hope you all enjoyed this webinar. Thank you all for coming on a Saturday morning to join us for this webinar as well. I also want to thank the Language Justice team for the live interpretation and translation that they always provide us in these trilingual webinars as well. Now, I just want to quickly go over a few things. Everyone who attended this webinar, you will receive a certificate sometime next week. So if you receive it, you can upload that onto your workforce registry account if you have one for professional development hours. Next, all the resources that were shared during this webinar, such as a copy of the slides, the recording of this webinar, as well as other resources to help you write your contract and policy handbook, will be emailed to you sometime next week as well. You do not have to share your emails with us. We will send it to the email that you use to register for this webinar. Another thing I want to bring up is we will be having office hour sessions following up this webinar. So I know we didn't have the time to answer every question that we received. So if you are interested, please sign up for these office hour sessions once we get that email sent out to you all. And lastly, one thing I wanted to add before we all end and continue on with our day is if you could please take some time to fill out this evaluation survey, we would greatly appreciate it. This is how we receive your feedback and hear suggestions from you on how we could improve our webinars and other topics and ideas that you may have for us to offer in the future for our trainings. So I went ahead and sent it in the chat. So if you could take a couple minutes to fill it out, we will greatly appreciate it. And it is 11:30, so I'll give it about a minute before I close this meeting. Again, thank you all for joining us on this Saturday morning. Thank you to our facilitators, the Linguist Justice team, and we hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. All right, everyone, I will go ahead and close this meeting now. Thank you all again. Have a great one. Bye-bye.